is the term transphobia recognised in UK law? And if so, what's the definition? And is the term misogyny recognised in UK law?
There is no legislation which includes the word transphobic or misogynist, and so there's no statutory definition of either of them. There is legislation in the Criminal Justice Act 2003 which allows for increased sentencing for offences where at the time of committing an offence, an offender demonstrated hostility towards the victim based on their being transgender or presumed to be transgender, or being or their sexual orientation or their disability. And there's also earlier legislation in the Crime and Disorder Act 1998 relating to religiously and racially aggravated offences. But the terminology that's used is demonstrating hostility towards them based on being transgender. The term transphobic isn't used, and I don't think it would be used because, or would be included in legislation, because it's legislation, if it's well drafted, should have describe objective behaviour, especially if it's a criminal offence, and talk about what behaviour is criminalised, not what attitudes people allegedly have. And with there is no similar provisions relating to misogynistic crime against women. So there are no aggravated penalties for that, and there's been a lot of discussion about whether there should be. There's no definition in statute of misogyny at the minute. If they do introduce some kind of offence which is basically about misogynistic hate crime, I very much doubt whether they'll use the term misogynistic. They'll probably talk about hostility based on the victim's sex, in which case it will be sex neutral. I think that's quite likely. For example, the sexual orientation provision doesn't name any specific sexual orientation. So in theory, somebody could be attacked because they're heterosexual, or there could be hostility towards them expressed because they're heterosexual, and that would be covered by the 2003 Act in the same way as it would if the victim of the crime was lesbian or gay, and there was hostility because of that. So no, there isn't. There's not a specific definition. Although the police talk about transphobia and they record allegations of transphobia in some instances as non-crime hate incidents, as they did in the Harry Miller case. So they talk about transphobia, but there isn't actually a legal definition.